Wilkinson here. Thanks for joining us again today. It would really help me a lot if you did a couple things if you're enjoying these episodes. First of all, hit that subscribe button below. It really helps me out. Secondly, if you are enjoying the podcast, hit that like button. That's a little thumbs up down there. Leave a comment. Let me know which episodes you like, and I'll try to do more like that. Thanks a lot, and I hope you enjoy today's episode. Wilkinson here. Today my guest is Peter Leahy. Say hi, Peter.
Hey, Peter.
Very funny. Okay, so Peter is a new author.
As of this week.
And the name of your book is?
Glowing Up Gay, A Curious Journey of Discovery.
Oh, wait. So you're gay? I haven't had any gay people on here.
Really? I find that a little hard to believe after what I've listened to.
So let's hear a little of your story. Tell a little background. Where are you from?
Grew up in the Boston area. Lifelong Red Sox, Patriots, sports fan in general. And went to college there.
Wait. So you like sports?
I do like sports.
Are you like a lesbian?
You know what? It's very lonely being a gay sports fan. I'll tell you that.
I guess. I always joke about it. And it's like, so the Super Bowl, if my friends have a party, I will go as long as there's a lesbian there to explain the game to me.
Oh my gosh.
Typical gay guy. Anyway, back to your story. Sorry.
Well, the sports obsessed fan, grew up in a traditional household, and I thought about wanting to get married and having children. But I was hiding a secret. I was ashamed that I was gay and that I didn't want anyone to know, and I didn't want to be ostracized that way.
How old were you when you figured out you were different or gay?
I would say by the time high school came around in professional wrestling, and you used to see these beefy, hairy guys in tiny
singlets and all that stuff.
Yeah. It was all about muscular, rugged man, and I was very much attracted to that, and I was singularly focused on that. But again, I was not comfortable being myself. And I made a decision to put that part of me away. I married a woman.
Why did you do that?
I think that the fear of being on my own or being alone or never finding my tribe or never finding anyone that was like me at the time, you have to remember, this is pre-internet. And the idea that I felt so different and that I was broken in some way. And when I finally became comfortable, obviously the internet and other ways to find out information. When you find out that there are people like you and there's a name for the type of person you're attracted to, for me it's bears, that I felt like I had a place in the community and that I wasn't a deviant per se.
So was there a religious aspect woven in here or not?
It was definitely in there, and I think the idea that I could be a good Catholic boy and get married in the church and marry a nice white girl who was also Irish very much felt like I was doing right by my parents.
So you did it for them more than for you?
No. Again, I did love her at the time, and I did want to have a life with her, and I wanted to have children and things like that. I kept that demon in the basement, so to speak.
And when did the demon come knocking at the basement door and say, I want out?
Well, again, we were married for 20 years. We had two children, have two children. And, as I got older, my marriage started to be pretty horrible. And the idea that we were living separate lives, we were staying together just for the children, and we hadn't been intimate for years.
How old were you when you got married?
I was 25 when I got.
So you're in your 40s when the seams are starting to come
Well,
apart.
it was slowly burning, but again, over the last 10 years of my marriage, we were not intimate. We didn't sleep in the same bed. We were essentially roommates.
That didn't bother her?
She was in control. I made more money than she did. We had children. We were raising them. That was our job.
Did you have separate bedrooms?
100%.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow. So you really were roommates.
Well, and again, I think looking back to how the marriage was going downhill and my life itself, I was 44 years old and I pretty much had resolved that my life was over. I had never kissed a man. I had never been with anybody. And I was hopeless. And it wasn't until a certain day, there's just one day in February in 2013 where I said, you know what, I'm going to try this. Or I'm going to not be afraid anymore. And that was the first step in my journey to finally break free of that relationship, to finally start to discover who I was and to really become a happy, fully realized man.
And then in doing that, at some point you said, I need to share this story with other people.
Yes. And I think the sharing is really, I talk about in the book about that I'm not an inspirational person per se, because in many ways the book is about, here's what I did, don't do what I did. But at the same time, it was it hopefully offers hope to say it's never too late. There is an opportunity. You may not get it right the first time, but there is an opportunity to find your authentic self and find your community and find support and to not settle for a life half lived.
Okay, we'll come back to that, but let's go back to your 44 when you're realizing you're going to try something out. So you kissed a guy.
I created an online profile, and I was in the process of leaving my ex-wife and again, finally starting to decide what it's going to be like. Because again, I didn't have any gay friends. I didn't know any, I knew very few gay people. So how do you reinvent your world, so to speak?
And you were in Atlanta at that point?
I was in Atlanta.
Okay.
So I was in Atlanta overall for 16 years. Half of it I was quote unquote straight, and then half of it I finally had come out.
So you got divorced?
We did. And it was a contentious divorce. And 3 months after we got divorced, my ex-wife sued me, accusing me of lying and hiding money.
Who won that one?
Well, obviously I won because I was so racked with guilt. Oh my goodness. The divorce settlement, I gave her 8 years of child support and alimony, about $3,000 a month.
Wow.
So I was racked with guilt. I slept well at night knowing that I felt like I provided for my ex-wife and our children.
But that wasn't enough.
It wasn't enough then. It's still not enough now. In many ways, our toxic relationship is about that I don't deserve, in her mind, I don't deserve the life that I have now, that I didn't earn this, that it's her life was stolen from her by me.
Did she remarry?
To the best of my knowledge, she has not been on a date since we split up.
Huh. And your contact with her is non-existent or minimal?
Minimal, text only.
How are you doing with the kids?
That is, that's the saddest part of my story is that in many ways, in finding my happiness, in finding a man and creating a relationship and eventually getting married, in creating that life, I've unfortunately do not have a relationship with the children. They've never met him. And it's almost like I have all this happiness and love and a stable, secure relationship that I want to share with them, and they don't want to see that part of me. And they're in their early 20s, and I hope that we can reconcile someday. But at this point, I can't see it.
Right. Are they in Atlanta?
They are in Atlanta, yes.
Oh, are they single?
I believe my son is single. My daughter is not.
So they really don't talk to you. That's sad.
It is, and I think what is always tough when you have children is that I was such an integral part of their life at one time. I knew everything that was going on. Obviously, I drove them to school every day for years. And then to be presumably a stranger is like I've lost a little part of myself.
Well, good thoughts to maybe them coming around. So you wrote a book.
I did.
Why'd you do that?
I thought that my story was ultimately one of hope. I didn't do things right the first time. I didn't figure out who I was for many years. But eventually I did find a path. I did find little angels along the way that helped me become the man I was meant to be. And if I can do it, you can do it.
Well, you said earlier, don't do what I did. Why do you say that?
Well, because I settled for being unhappy. And so
you're talking about your former life. When
my
you
former
say,
life, don't do what I
that.
did.
Okay.
Well, because I think overall, the shame that I had, I punished myself. In many ways, the book is about me. Again, I told you how I punished myself, but the eventual coming out is about me forgiving the part of me that was that way. And by making sure that I sort of came to terms with my past, I sort of let it go and became just happy and free as opposed to scared all the time.
So you moved out of a fear-based life.
Yes, in fact, that's a great way to put it. I went from a fear-based life to a love-based life. And, for me, my coming out was about becoming more emotional. One of the ways is telling people that I love them. And it's not necessarily romantic love, but I love you and I mean it. And I want you to know how much you mean to me. I'm also, touch is my love language. So I'm a hugger. I love to be hugged. I love to be held. I love to be spooned. And not knowing that about myself until I came out was also, and there's so many things about me that I didn't know or that I kept suppressed. I didn't know that I love to cook, clothes, understanding the gay community, understanding the bear community.
Wait, you're a shopper?
Well, it's funny. It was actually, I redid my wardrobe, but I didn't change my weight. So I used to wear large shirts and large plaid boxers. That was kind of my style, so to speak.
No.
I know. But you see, I'm 5'10", I'm just under 170 pounds, and like, I'm a medium. But I wasn't secure enough as a man at the time. And now, of course, wearing brighter and tighter clothes, especially in the Palm Springs area, is about more enhancing who I am and being comfortable in my skin, as opposed to using my clothes to hide myself.
What do you like to cook?
For me, so, I think we all get to a certain age where you have to go low carb. So in many ways, making a colorful salad.
That's my problem.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Well, that's actually a good part of the story also. In learning how I had to lose weight for me was...
like reinventing yourself?
Reinventing myself was giving up pasta, potatoes, and bread, because I'd always, exercised and tried to eat well, but I wasn't getting anywhere.
Wait. My 3 food groups are crusty bread, ice cream, and potatoes.
It's like having a love affair.
I'm doomed.
I know. So you're kind of three-way as Ben and Jerry, I assume?
No, I don't really like. I like the low carb or the low sugar ice cream, but I'm down to that. But I do like ice cream. So, but anyway, not to interrupt your story. So you discovered what?
That cooking was a form of love, actually. When I was in Atlanta, the local grocery store was able to provide recipes and all the foods right there. So taking a recipe card, bringing it home, and then discovering what I liked, and then admittedly, the age that we live in, taking a picture of it was all part of, me discovering and creativity, and then maybe cooking for someone, and then extending that when I worked in an office, making treats for work. I became the dessert guy at my work.
Low carb dessert?
Well, they weren't necessarily low carbs, and so I'd sort of like exercise my sugar demons with those other people.
Okay.
But that part of my identity at work became, sort of the flip the script, the old Peter to the new Peter.
Okay, so you have another job. What do you do basically? Not to go into detail, but basically.
I'm a marketing guy. So I've been in marketing for all my life. I've worked on greeting cards.
Is this like a corporate job or something?
Always a corporate job.
That brings up another question. So did you come out to people at work or what?
I did, and that was a very painful, arduous process at first.
Why?
Because I was in my head, I wasn't sure that I could come out to people. So I would pick people. Oh, I trust you. You're on my list. I got to tell you something. And then that person over there, I couldn't necessarily trust you. I wasn't really sure about it. And so for the most of the time, it was women that I came out to. I mean, they're obviously much more in tune or much more accepting. I just wasn't secure in myself and the men that I worked with.
In that process, did any of them surprise you? You thought this person wouldn't be a good one to tell, but they found out, and then it turns out they're an advocate. Did that happen to you?
I think actually 2 different things happened. So one of my first persons I came out to when I told her.
Why?
Because she knew I was in an unhappy relationship, and she's also very pro-LGBTQ plus and an ally, and she felt horrible that I didn't think that I could come out to her. And I
did she find out another way, or did you come out to her?
Oh, I came out to her, yeah.
So you did.
The flip side of that coin is there was a gentleman I worked with. I was pretty comfortable with him, and he's the one that actually taught me the best thing. He said, stop doing this, stop selecting people, just live your life. And people will see the type of life you live or the people that you're with.
They're either on board or they're not.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow, good advice. That reminds me of so I came out, my friends called it the scorched earth policy. I came out to like 60 people in 3 weeks. Boom, boom, boom. Like 12 in one day to start. But I had interestingly, one of I thought he was a close friend, was a psychologist. And so I'll make up a name. I'll call him Paul. That's not his name. So I told Paul I'm gay. He has a really funny look on his face. And I go, Paul, what's wrong? And you know what he said? I'm still embarrassed this date, 25 years later, 30 years later. He said, well, I'm really good looking, He thought I would be all over him because I was gay.
Wow.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah, what I think is also, for someone who's in the helping profession,
exactly,
he talked about himself first and talked about himself only. Yikes.
And really, he wasn't all that. I mean, he was okay looking, but that's not the point.
You know what's interesting about that is that was a moment of vulnerability, that you took a chance with that person.
Right.
And when you said earlier that people are on board or they're not, that's really a critical touch point to understand if they're going to be on the team or not.
So overall, your work experience. So you're out now at work?
Yes. I'm the face of the pride.
Well, you're bringing in pink cookies. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Well, again, so now obviously, when marriage equality came out and major corporations are filing amicus briefs with the Supreme Court, and now companies want to have a pro-LGBT lifestyle or that they support the community.
Right.
It is amazing how being the face of that. So I'm actually on my company's website right now. My husband, myself.
You're a poster boy.
I know, exactly. It's like token gay. Yeah, I'll take it.
Wow. Okay, back to cooking. I'm not going to accept salads. So what else do you like to cook?
Well, you see, my husband is really good with the grill.
Okay.
And so but the salads are a combination of meat and vegetables. And to me, it's the artistry of the plating and then never doing the same thing twice. Because, you can never because the gays are so judgmental. I could never do the same thing twice. But overall, so the creativity, the flavor, the color, the presentation, the photo, that's what the cooking is.
You're just making me feel really bad because like 3 days ago, I had a friend come over and I realized, he goes, "Oh, I'm glad you made this. It's the same thing we had last time." And I go, "Oh my goodness." But I made stir fry. It was a lost cause at this point.
Well,
at that point.
It was his loss.
So what do you like to cook other than meaty salads?
I would say that...
And desserts.
We are a panini household. And so now... watching tasty videos or TikTok videos about how you can combine meats and cheeses and make something, a new pouch, a new flavor profile. We are into this chef named Marian Grasby, who is Filipino and Australian. So both how she talks, the words she uses, and the recipes. It's also a shared love between my husband and me.
Can you do a low-carb panini? How do you do that? You're lying to me, right? You do carbs.
I do carbs every once in a while, and you're right.
Right.
You have to be choiceful, as they say.
Okay. And your husband's name is what?
Aaron.
So, and you told me earlier in our pre-podcast chat that Aaron lost a bunch of weight.
He is, yes. So he's a bear, and over the past year plus, he recently lost 100 pounds. And
so he's losing some of his bearishness.
A little bit.
Are you okay with that?
I'm more than okay. I cannot be more proud of the success. And it's actually a combination of diet, exercise, and admittedly, the Apple Watch.
Really?
We both have it, and he had it for a year prior to that, and then all of a sudden got into the idea that he could close his rings, as they say. And
what does that mean?
So Apple, the watch will recommend behaviors that will make sure that you stand at least once an hour for 12 hours a day, that you exercise. You can set the limit. I have mine at 30 minutes a day, and then you burn a certain amount of calories. And all three of those are a daily accomplishment.
Do they have water drinking on there too? I have a Fitbit
No, actually
that
they
has
don't.
that.
Not that I know of.
Huh, so that worked, huh?
That worked for him, and it became part of our lifestyle. I guess that, like anything else, 30, 60 days after you start doing something, that becomes the new normal.
Great. And you moved from Atlanta to Rancho Mirage.
About 60 days ago, yeah.
Why'd you come here?
Multiple reasons. One of which was moving from Atlanta to a very gay-friendly and could you even say gay-dominant area in the Palm Springs area. My husband had lived in the West Coast for 20 years before moving to Atlanta for us, and so moving here for him was part of that also. Did you also know what it looks like outside right now? In many ways, moving from Atlanta in November to the Palm Springs area is like cheating winter. It is fantastic to be in shorts right now, to the sunshine, the palm trees, the mountains. It is, and again, I'm sure this is just a great honeymoon, but in many ways, starting a new phase. And I mentioned before that half my life in Atlanta, I was living a lie or living unfortunate. So starting over and really closing that chapter, so to speak, was also part of the decision.
I'm going to inject, I think that you should stay in bed on Monday. We're recording this on a Saturday because Monday, the high will be 54 and there's a 70% chance of rain.
Well, funny you should say that.
It's going to blow away your Palm Springs.
Actually, I have a great retort.
Okay.
On Monday, I'm flying to a work event in Jacksonville, Florida. And I will be incredibly tan, and I'm so making sure that my coworkers are jealous.
Oh, wow. So you've been tanning?
No, just regular sun here. Again, it's dreary and rainy and brown in Atlanta.
So did you aspire to be a writer earlier, or is this something that just popped up?
I've never aspired that. I didn't know if I had it in me. I had stories to tell, and I had an interesting life led. To me, the challenge was, would it be a good story? Number one, could I make it relatable to other people? And then probably most importantly, could I reflect back on my life to see what patterns, what family of origin issues I had, or what patterns I may be repeating from my parents and my family, and then turn that into an entire story, and then talk about how, and again, how I flip the script to live a more free and love-based life. And then again, share that with others that hopefully they could, if they're stuck, if they're trapped in a marriage, if they're unhappy in some way, or potentially even if they're in the closet, that I could give them some hope.
So earlier you said, don't do what I did, which means your process of being married, blah, blah, blah.
Settling and being unhappy and not doing anything about it and being so scared and not reaching out and not trying to find an ally or not trying to look for resources.
So who's your audience? That's what I was getting at. Is your audience the midlife guy that's really gay, that's married and stuck in an unhappy marriage? Or is it somebody that's thinking about getting married today? And it, surprisingly, even in this culture, younger guys still get married and they're still trapped. And it usually there's a religious element, is my experience. But so who's your audience? Is it the younger guy or the midlife guy?
I would say at this point, it's probably still the midlife guy, only because of the shared experiences and the relatability of it. But I'll give you a perfect example. My neighbor read it. She's a 70-year-old woman, widow, and her husband died 3 years ago. And she is very outgoing and wants to meet a man, wants to meet people. And she always finds an excuse not to go out. And she said, Peter, I read your book and I'm going to do it.
So she said, I'm not too old to do that.
I'm not too old to do this,
Right.
or that I can see myself finding my tribe or finding a way to find my happiness again.
Interesting. She's an older straight lady that doesn't meet your demographic.
Well, exactly. And I think that's one of the greatest gifts as an author. And again, I'm still struggling with that word author. I literally wrote the book, I published the book this week.
If you're able to hold a book, you're an author.
Oh, and again, you can the cover of the book is also a photo of me. And that cover actually represents a lot too.
Wait, I'm a photographer. Why didn't you have me do your photo? Come on.
Amazingly,
We didn't know each other.
Not only did we not know each other, but some random family took this photo, and it's like the best. It's literally one of the best pictures of me ever. I'm squatting in an Adirondack chair in Provincetown, Massachusetts during Bear Week, and just the sun's going down at sunset, the light, the joy in my face, the fact that my toenails are blue, but that whole idea of glowing up gay hopefully resonates with that photo.
So there's a glow. What do you like about Aaron?
What I like about Aaron is his innate sense of goodness, his ability to always find, I guess, I don't want to say do the right thing, but the way that he has sort of a childlike wonder about him, and that he is always puts his heart out in his sleeve. So whether it's animals, whether it's making friends, whether it's being the glue of our community, he's got a very outgoing personality also. So we're kind of both that way, but he has his own, like, in many ways, moving to the Palm Springs area, he's already got like a dozen caftans. And just, no, I mean, just really being even more in his skin here is one of the things that I love about it. You know, when you're married, and again, I'm not giving this advice, but my greatest joy is not when I look at my husband and how handsome he is. When I look at my husband and he sees himself smiling in the mirror because he knows he looks good, that's when I'm in love with him even more, because I know how happy he is, and that's what makes my heart sing.
So if you could push a rewind button, would you get married today, looking back? Or is it like part of your experience that made you who you are and you're okay with it and you're happy you went through that journey?
Yeah, it's funny. I don't necessarily regret the choices that I made. I wanted to have children. I wanted to live that life. We had some struggles even having children, but I also, everything I chose put me to where I am now. Happy at work, happy at my life, happy I'm in a good place. And hopefully, part of the book is also the give back strategy. Can I help people? And you're right. Of course I would love, I used to have really beautiful blonde hair, and I probably had a great six pack when I was in my 20s. I could have really been adorable somewhere. But at the same time, those are the choices I made, and you can't spend your life regretting or waiting around for something that didn't happen.
The other way I think about that is if I just look at all the negatives today at my age, 10 years from now, if I'm around, if I don't do it, I'd look back and say, oh, I could have done it then.
In my case, I was so depressed and so in my own head, I was at the point where I don't deserve to be happy. I don't know if I'll ever be happy. And so everything that has happened since then is so much, I never expected this life. Are you kidding me? Everything from being financially secure to finding a great person to making memories together to finally writing my story in a way that hopefully can help others.
Is this your first podcast?
This is my first podcast.
Being on a podcast, wow. That's cool. Well, that's quite a journey. So what's coming up for you?
To me, it's funny, when you become an author, you become a salesperson right after that.
Right.
So my ability to reach my audience and or reach people who are broader than me is probably one of the biggest things. And not surprisingly, because I work in a business environment, leveraging LinkedIn to go through to reach out to diversity and inclusion executives is almost certainly my marketing plan as a way to tell my story, to share it with book clubs, to be able to be an inspiration for people that, that aren't necessarily my target audience per se.
And now we can talk about your book. So where would somebody find it?
They'd find it on Amazon.
Okay, and we'll put the link to that in the episode notes.
Yep, it's a paperback and Kindle. Okay. And then I'll be doing an audio version soon.
I've heard from other authors that's not as easy as you think. But you like to talk, so.
Gee, do you think?
Yeah. So looking back at your life, what would be some of the main lessons you've learned so far?
The number one lesson is that being happy with yourself and being comfortable in your own skin makes you a better partner, a better employee, just a better person walking every day. So if you, again, go with RuPaul, if you can't love yourself, how's anyone else going to love you? I mean, the core of that is being comfortable in your own skin in a way that projects attractiveness, happiness, ability to make friends, connections, lovers. So that inner peace that I didn't have for many years. In fact, I'm rubbing my stomach right now as an example of inner peace. When I was in the closet and unhappy and living a lie, I used to have stomach problems. Oh my gosh, I put all my stress in my stomach. And it's amazing how that drove so many other horrible things in my life at the time. And then that went away when I was finally comfortable in my own skin. So number one, being comfortable, happy with yourself, love yourself, and you'll be a great person walking every day. Number two is find a community and listen, give, finding ways to share your passions, find connections. Don't be alone. That's, again, the old Peter was alone every night. And then finally, don't sweat the small stuff or just, things in the past, grudges you hold. You and I are both at the age where stuff in the past doesn't really matter anymore. It's about making connections, about cooking something that you love for somebody, telling someone you love them, making memories together. That's what life is really all about.
Well, Peter, thank you for coming in and welcome to Palm Springs. Well, you're actually not in Palm Springs, but you're close.
Yes, sir.
To the area. So glad to have you here as part of the community. We were talking earlier, there's so many creative types. And I'd say what I've learned is the creative types and the woo-woo community, energy stuff and all that, yoga, everything going on here. It is a pretty cool place to live.
I'm looking forward again to making new friends, making connections. Apparently I'm going to try pickleball. But overall, just the idea that the gay community is easily accessible,
right,
with events, with people that come in. Oh, and of course, you know what happens when you move somewhere that's a resort town. We have somebody coming to stay with us in 10 days. We have someone else coming in March, someone else coming in April. Right. You know what that's all about.
Well, I have Airbnb rooms, so of course I know. I give my friends a deal, though.
Yeah.
All right, Peter. Thanks a lot. Appreciate you coming in.